it kind of reminds me of even like Robert Kiyosaki saying, "I can't afford it," shuts you down, and "How can I afford it" is a better way. Well, the same thing with this. Whether it's seminars or feedback, that's a much better spin than calling something a failure.
Yeah.
Failure sometimes when you say that, it just shuts you down and you don't really think about how you can improve from it. Feedback allows for improvement.
Yeah. And also I've heard it called so I've succeeded and I've learned, and that's it. I've never failed.
There you go.
And you learn probably 10 times more from those life lessons than when you succeed. If everything's going right, you haven't learned anything. If everything is going to crap, then it's like you have to force yourself to get better, or you let it defeat you. And if you're listening to this podcast, I doubt you're going to let it defeat you. So
I've heard somebody say before that there is no failure, only failure to learn.
Welcome to the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast, where precision meets performance in commercial real estate. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and every week we deep dive into the strategies and systems and stories behind rock solid underwriting. Whether you're a seasoned analyst, an up and coming investor, or a commercial real estate professional looking to sharpen your edge, this show is your front row seat to expert insights, emerging trends, and real world underwriting tactics that stand the test of time and scrutiny. From market assumptions to debt structuring, cap rates to cash flow, we're cutting through the noise and getting to the numbers that matter. So sharpen your pencils and fire up those models. Let's get to work. This is Ironclad Underwriting.
hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Williams, and as always, my co-host, my good friend and business partner, Frank Patalano. How are you doing, Frank?
Good, sir.
So did you see what I did there?
Yes. I got a smile out of it, which is perfectly fine. You can
So
call me
I'm
whatever you want.
yeah. So far you've been on every episode, so I think of you as a co-host.
There you go. That's fine.
Last time we talked about some differences in a 506B and C and Reg A and Reg CF and some other ways we can be SEC compliant. But today, on this episode, I wanted to talk about there is no failure, only feedback. And what does that mean? I know if you ever listen to Tony Robbins, you've heard that. Um, if you listen to some other people, you've probably heard it too. If you haven't heard it before, then we'll talk about what it is and what it means. So, what do you have to say on that, Frank?
I consider myself a little bit of a risk taker. I try not to be too much a risk taker, but one of the things I say about real estate is that if you haven't lost any money in real estate, you're not really pushing yourself hard enough. Uh, just think about the number of people that have never failed at anything. In schools, we mostly push and teach people not to make mistakes. But as you and I know, making mistakes helps you grow.
No.
Whether you want to or not, and you never know when that's going to happen. But obviously, I'd love every single deal that I ever have invested in to triple in value like it's nothing, etc. But we just can't expect that to happen. There is no perfect property, so if I waited for the perfect property, I would not own anything yet. So,
Yeah. And that sort of goes by our topic that we discussed a few episodes ago about the analysis paralysis and stuff. It's like if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, you're never going to invest. But if you if you take everything as a failure, then you're not going to move forward either. You're going to shut down, and then you're again not going to invest. So what we recommend is, instead of thinking of something as a failure, what can I learn from this, and how can I improve moving forward? I know you have a mentor who calls these little life seminars or something, doesn't he?
yeah, yeah. So Rod Cleef would consider ways in which he's lost money or just problems that he's had with different deals. He would call them seminars. A seminar being a learning experience, educational, and obviously that's a much more positive way to say it compared to some negativity or swearing about it or anything else. Um, it kind of reminds me of even like Robert Kiyosaki saying, "I can't afford it," shuts you down, and "How can I afford it" is a better way. Well, the same thing with this. Whether it's seminars or feedback, that's a much better spin than calling something a failure.
Yeah.
Failure sometimes when you say that, it just shuts you down and you don't really think about how you can improve from it. Feedback allows for improvement.
Yeah. And also I've heard it called so I've succeeded and I've learned, and that's it. I've never failed.
There you go.
And you learn probably 10 times more from those life lessons than when you succeed. If everything's going right, you haven't learned anything. If everything is going to crap, then it's like you have to force yourself to get better, or you let it defeat you. And if you're listening to this podcast, I doubt you're going to let it defeat you. So um
I've heard somebody say before that there is no failure, only failure to learn.
yeah, that's true.
Um,
So
because God,
well, I mean, this whole thing, if you think about it this way, that there's no failure, only feedback, or only failure to learn, you, if you don't already have that mindset to do that, you're going to have to come up with like a paradigm shift. It's like either you fail or you succeed. No, you succeed always, and maybe you take a couple hits, but you don't let that define you, don't let it defeat you, and you move forward. And if you are having a hard time getting out of that paradigm where it's like you either fail or succeed, then you need to start asking some critical questions like, well, what worked? Okay, something had to have gone right. Nothing ever just is 100% bad. And then you can ask yourself, well, what didn't work, and why didn't it work? And then you can ask, once you have those, it's like, well, what can I change next time to make this not happen again? So,
I'm just thinking like of a little infant and that first time that the infant gets up to walk and then after one step falls back down. Can you imagine if infants said to themselves in their mind that, oh, that's a failure, I'm never going to try that again?
well, can you imagine the parents? It's like everybody, whenever you see a baby walk for the first time, you get so excited, and then you see them fall down. Nobody like berates that child, say, "Oh, you're never going to learn to walk." No, everybody is pushing them to do it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened to that mentality growing up? It's like, well, if you fail, you don't want to stop just because you fail. You want to keep moving forward and overcome that failure, so that that failure then becomes a lesson and you can again move forward. So,
Yep. Have you ever
I
heard
mean,
the story about Michael Jordan with basketball with this?
maybe, but
So when he was in high school, he actually did not make the cut to get onto his basketball team. And obviously, Michael Jordan, who arguably is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, uh, he didn't he didn't give up on that. He worked tirelessly to improve his game, practiced every day, focused on his weaknesses. He did have a little luck that he was able to grow a couple inches taller as well. But instead of just giving up, he kept pushing forward, and then eventually was able to get back onto the basketball team and the varsity basketball team a couple of years, a year later. Just about hard work and perseverance is what I'm thinking about when
yeah,
we're talking about this. There are people that I know that when something bad has happened, they throw in the towel automatically and they're done. They're like, on my first deal in real estate, I lost money on my first deal. I lost $25,000 on that first deal, and if I had just thrown in the towel and given up on real estate, I probably would never have met you and Angel or so many other things that I do now. You know,
you probably still be teaching, I would guess, still
I'm
working at
sure I would
Walmart.
still be teaching. Yep.
So, and another paradigm shift is life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. And so it's like, that means like if something bad happening, that's not happening to you. That's allowing you the chance to overcome that. It's allowing you that chance to grow. And so you can either again let it define you, or you can, or take it by the horns and overcome it. So
One of the things they say is forget the mistake, but remember the lesson. Yeah, I mean, failure itself is a concept, but it's what you do with it.
yeah,
Um, do you let that become a permanent part of your reality, or do you try to improve to go beyond it?
yeah, and really, the only time that you would ever fail is if you give up. You know, if you give up and you don't learn from anything, then yeah, you are gonna fail. But if you're knocked down, all you have to do is get up one more time, then you're knocked down. It's like if life knocks you down 20 times, just get up 21 times. You don't want to stay down.
That reminds me of Abraham Lincoln. Some people have joked about him being America's greatest failure. He had so many different things that happened to his life, like when his parents died, when his first wife or his fiancee died. He lost so many elections. He running for office, but he had resilience and kept moving forward.
And that reminds me of the Thomas Edison quote. It's like he had like 10,000 times that he tried to work on the light bulb and it didn't work. And on like 10,000 whatever time it did work. And he had a reporter interview him and say, "What's it like to fail 10,000 times?" And Edison goes, "I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found 10,000 times that it doesn't work." And so with that mindset, you need to keep that mindset so that you don't fail 10,000 times. You just find 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. So
There you
that
go.
was one my research advisor in grad school always mentioned to us. It's like, well, if that doesn't work, we just know that that doesn't work and we move on with another approach. So
And you've seen the little pictures before of the guy that's mining for gold, and he's about to strike it rich, but he gives up at like the last moment. Have
yeah,
you seen those before?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you just keep persevering and you're gonna hit something. Also, don't compare yourself to somebody else because like that one picture you're talking with the guy mining, he sees somebody else find a little deposit and he's like, "Well, I didn't find a deposit, so I guess there's nothing here for me," and he gives up. But if he could see like the big picture, he would see that he was just really close. So,
Crazy.
yep. Anything else on this short little mindset
Not
podcast
really. I
today?
mean, it's just a good thing to think about that whenever you're whether it's not just investing, but everything in life, it's a percentage game. You've heard of the 1% rule. If you're trying to get people to invest in you, you might get 99 no's before you get that first yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's about continuous improvement.
when we were selling, trying to fundraise in scouts when I was a kid, my I guess assistant scoutmaster had this saying. He's like, "There's only so many no's in the world, and your job is to get through those no's as fast as possible, and then you get the yeses."
Haha. I don't think I've ever heard it that way. That's pretty cool.
And it's like when you're selling door to door Reese's peanut butter cups, you'd be surprised how many no's. There's actually less no's on Reese's peanut butter cups than the Boy Scout popcorn because everybody loves the Reese's. But there's still people just they don't even want to listen to you, won't even want to listen to your spiel, and so you just move on. You can't let that define you. You just keep moving on, and maybe next time you say, "Oh, well, that's a house that doesn't even want to talk to you," but then you don't want to leave them out because maybe you'll have something that they do want to talk to you about. So, but
All right, that just brought up a good story. Um, I'm thinking about this failure thing or making mistakes, stuff like that. But at the same point, you don't know what you don't know. So back when I was teaching, we had this kid. He was part of the wrestling team, and they decided they were going to sell candy to do fundraiser. I don't know if they needed new uniforms but there wasn't enough budget in the school budget in order to buy the uniforms, so they were raising money. And they were selling a couple different candy bars. And he wasn't the best student. I'm not saying he was a bad kid or anything else. He made a few mistakes in life. Might not have come from the best home, and had some, we'll call it mindset issues. So he had lunch detention with me one day, and we're sitting there in my classroom. There was couple kids there, and he offered me candy that he was selling. And I was thinking about it, this and that, and I joked. I said, like, what's my return on equity, or my return on my investment, stuff like that. And at one point or another, he says that he wanted to borrow some money from me. And I joked with him. I said, what do you have for collateral and this and that? So he was telling me the story about how the candy had melted on top of the refrigerator. And I don't know about you, but candy doesn't really melt on top of the refrigerator too often. And then, so I go to throw out a piece of paper in the trash, and what do I find but two fully sealed candy bars in the trash? And it was just a funny story. I'm like, what are these? He says, oh, I broke them because they were broken in half. He says, I didn't think anybody would be willing to buy them, so I threw them out.
Wow.
And they were, they're selling for $1 a piece. It's like, you don't think that you can find one kid on our entire team that would buy a candy bar that was broken in half and pay you full price for it if they were hungry enough. So he's like, yeah, I guess this and that. So I ended up giving him $2, and I cleaned off the outside of the candy bar wrapper. These are 100 grand bars. You ever had 100 grand candy bars?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how 100 grand bar breaks because they don't break.
So these are the full size ones like this, and it was perfectly split in half. So after I cleaned off the wrapper, by the way, it was a brand new trash can too, so there was nothing in there. So I go to sit at my desk and I decide to open one. And the funniest thing in the world happened. The candy bars weren't broken. It was two pieces in the wrapper.
That's what I was thinking of 100 grand. They weren't broken. They were two in there.
Well, no, I'm trying to relate this to this concept of failure.
Yeah.
And he considered like these broken candy bars this massive failure, and he threw the darn things out. And it's like, buddy, what are you talking about? This is the way they actually sell them.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that at the time, but it was a hilarious story about how mindset can really change your perspective. If you think in a negative light, you're going to see so many things as negative. But if you continue to move forward, never give up, have that perseverance, you will figure out ways to solve problems. You'll find the right feedback from your mistakes in order to improve.
Yeah. I
You know,
agree.
crazy story. That was probably 17 years ago or so. So that means he'd be like almost 30 right now. I should, if I can remember his name, I might have to look through my yearbook, and I might have to look him up. See if he ended up turning his life around. Like I said, he wasn't a bad kid, but he made a few mistakes here or there.
Yeah. I mean, I think high school is much too young to determine how somebody's going to turn out.
And by the way, this was middle school. These were like seventh graders.
Oh,
But unfortunately, many kids, because time when you're in middle school feels so much longer, they consider that like their whole life.
yeah.
That one change is going to ruin the rest of your life. It's like, no, there's so many possibilities. We all screw up in middle school, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's a whole different topic. But yeah. I mean, and I think it has to do with, I mean, you and I are mid to upper 40s now.
Yep.
So we have all of those life experiences, but when you're 12 years old, you don't have that. And you miss out in the first 4 years of your life because you're still growing. So you don't even really have any memories except for 8 years worth. And so when you're in middle school, those 2 years are a quarter of your entire life that at that time.
Yep.
Whereas with you and me, those 2 years are now what 5% almost of our time. So I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing is just it's a thing of perspective, and that's why the older you get, the quicker the years go by. It's because like it's less of a percentage of your entire time on this earth. So
There you go. So that's all
that's
I
how
got.
I
I
think
just
of
thought
it.
it was a fun story about what he perceived as a failure. He threw out. He threw it out in the trash, and I helped give him some feedback, I guess.
Did you open it up in front of him so he could see that it wasn't actually broken in half?
So I didn't realize that the 100 grand bars were two different pieces. I was sitting at my desk, but then I was so excited. It's like, buddy, these things aren't even broken. Look, they're not even cracked in the middle. They're two separate pieces.
Yeah, hopefully he changed his outlook on life. So
Hopefully he had not already thrown up more of them out.
I don't know, because he would owe the money for them all, I would think.
Yep. It was a mixed pack, so it wasn't all 100 gram bars. It was just funny.
Oh, okay. Well, with that, I don't have anything else on failure. Just there is no failure, only feedback. And we'll catch you next time. See ya.
Thank you, sir. See ya.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Ironclad Underwriting Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share the show. And don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or check us out at our website at ironcladunderwriting.com for more insights and updates. If you have a question, a deal you're analyzing, or a topic you want us to tackle, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your assumptions grounded, your models sharp, and your underwriting ironclad.